Hello, and welcome to our webinar with representative of China Europe International Business School, CEIBS. My name is Yuna and I'm working at MBA Strategy Company. And today we have a very interesting topic. From factory of the world to the world's largest consumer market, what careers opportunity does the new China offer? The economic crisis in the West has promoted many of us to finally realize that the world will never be the same. And what if one of us survive and one must adapt? China Europe International Business Schools, CEIBS, Senior MBA Marketing Manager Roy Chasen will discuss the new economic trends that will affect young professionals almost everywhere. The CEIBS is the leading business school on mainland China, located in Shanghai, a city many refer to as the new gateway to Asia. The school offers international students a top-ranked, globally recognized education. CEIBS is ranked number 15 in the world by Financial Times. With the opportunity to clearly differentiate the MBA experience with in-depth understanding of Chinese business. Our presenter today is Roy Chasen. Roy Chasen is the Senior MBA Marketing Manager at CEIBS with an international career spanning 5 continents and degree from universities both in the United States and Europe. Roy has been working with China under different roles since 1996, witnessing the massive change China has gone through in less than 2 decades. Now I'd like to turn it over to Roy Chasen.
For all the technical glitches. Can you hear me now, please? One moment. Yes, hello. Can you hear me now? One moment. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay, apologies for the delay. Okay, great. Can you hear me clearly? Am I getting? Am I here on the other side? All right. All right. I apologize for the delay. My name is Roy Jason, and thank you very much for introducing me this evening. We'll obviously make the presentation a little briefer since we started with a delay. We apologize again and thank you for your patience with us. For the next, let's say, 20 minutes, I'll quickly talk about career opportunities in China, and then following that for about another 10 minutes or so, I'll do a presentation about CEIBS, the China Europe International School in Shanghai, and then I'll be glad to take some of your questions. So let's move ahead. If you can move to the first slide, please. One moment, please. One moment. Hello, can you hear me now? Can we move forward? Hello, can you hear me now? Sorry for the delay. Hello? Can you hear me now? moment, please. Okay. Can we move forward the slide, right? Can you hear me clearly, or am I getting cut off? Hello? Can you hear me clearly, or are we getting cut off? Okay, great. One moment, please. Can you move the slide forward, please? Can you move the slide forward? Okay, this is not working. Can you hear me at all? Can you advance the slides? Hello? One moment, please. Then I need to move the slides forward. Hello, I need you to move the slide forward. Yes, but okay. All right. Great. Okay, so again, I apologize for the technical delay. Let's really quick look what I'm trying to show by the first slide. That for our business school education, we tend to very much look a little bit in the past rather than sometimes looking into the future. So if you move forward for the next slide. Okay, this shows the HSBC ad, which talks about looking into future trends and trying to predict future trends. This is also true for your career. Let's go to the next one. Okay, in the last few years, China was known as the factory of the world, essentially because we've known China for all the low-cost made goods. Please move ahead. Okay, and making anything from T-shirts to cars to electronic goods. China has been essentially the factory of the world for the last 3 decades. Please move on. Okay, and this was due to almost endless cheap labor, inexpensive raw materials, an undervalued currency, low margins, and so on and so forth. Next. With impressive growth rates, we're talking about double-digit growth from the 1980s until essentially 2011. Now, slow growth has started to slow down, and this year predicted to be around 7.5%. Next, please. And this has led to the enormous development of China. For those of you that have been to China, you know what I'm speaking about. If we look at the top photo, this was Shanghai in the 1980s. Essentially, the Pudong, which is the east side of the city, was just farmland. And now today, especially if you see the photo on the bottom, it's even a little bit outdated because the skyscrapers have filled the whole financial center. And as you know, Shanghai is a booming city, and this is for almost all cities across China. Next, please. And this means today that China has even more highways than the United States. More skyscrapers at 802 compared to 539. In 10 years, China is said to have close to three times skyscrapers than the U.S. Go on, please. But many are saying because of the slowing growth, is the China golden age over? Is the China bubble, as many say, about to explode? And this is due to increasing cost of labor, increasing raw materials, growing transport costs, currency strengthening, labor shortage, and aging population. production moving back to the West in some cases, some people say, and even cheaper countries. Okay, China get age over. What do you think? Well, I think not actually, because China still has a large amount of reserves in the government and private sector, a growing consumer class, and consumption levels, which are thirsty for Western goods. The interior of the country, Western China, is still very much developing, with double-digit growth in many cities. Rural to urban migration, Chinese cities are still growing, with last year time that more people lived in the cities than in the farms in the turn of Chinese history. And China is having large investment technologies, investing in higher value industries, okay, and expanding the value chain. Come on. China is becoming an extremely highly diverse economy in many different sectors, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. The emergence of Chinese brands, okay, you've probably heard of Huawei, of Haier, of Lenovo, and computer, and this is only just the beginning. And Chinese outward investment, Chinese are investing both in natural resources as well as in companies of all different types, in real estate, developing countries as well as Western countries. And only a few months ago, China surpassed the United States as the largest trading nation with over $4 billion. So if anybody's talking about a Chinese bubble, well, you have to think about the diversity of the Chinese economy, how many different industries and different facets of the economy, the global economy China is involved in. So I would not necessarily say that China is the China bubble is bursting, but rather it has become more developed and therefore developed and slowing down, which is the natural progression of developing countries, as most of you know. Move on. Okay, and let's really quickly go into the different sectors that are booming in China and opportunities that lay for professionals, Russians such as you. So obviously, oil and gas. China is investing in oil and gas in Central Asia, Russia, and around the world, and also renewable energies. Right, chemical industry is also booming, and companies like Dow, BASF, and all recruit at CEIBS. On. Automotive and aerospace this last year, China is producing more automobiles than U.S., Europe, and Japan combined. Okay, this is quite amazing. Many Western auto companies are operating, obviously, in China. All the big names, BMW, Nissan, Ford, Jaguar, recruited last year at CEIBS, and actually just this week, recruited, actually last 6 months, recruited 7 candidates at CEIBS. Chinese as well as Western candidates for the operations here in China. Aerospace and companies such as Honeywell, for example, all recruit at CEIBS. So this is a growing sector in China and still one of the few places in the world that's booming. Move on. I spoke of outward investment. Chinese companies are investing in infrastructure projects globally, securing resources, buying up real estate, mining roads. There's a lot of liquidity in cash in China, and China's using that cash to invest worldwide, both on a government level and obviously the private sector. And they need people to make the bridge between West and East. Always the Chinese companies have the capabilities to invest abroad, and that's why they need people with China knowledge as well as global knowledge. Okay, we can move forward. Consulting, if any of you are interested in the sector, China again is one of the few countries in the world where consulting is still booming. It's a high growth industry, especially in sectors such as healthcare and automotive, which I mentioned. There's room for still many boutique consulting firms and Western company moving operations in China, helping them out with the process. For example, IMS, which is the largest healthcare consulting company, is hiring at CEIBS as well. this year coming from the healthcare sector. Please move on. Finance. Chinese outward investment. Chinese finance sector is constantly liberalizing every year. Shanghai has its goal to be the global financial sector, or at least in Asia in 2020. And this year, the financial trade zone was launched, essentially giving Western as well as Chinese financial organizations more freedom to work from this organization. Slowly, as they start to work out of Shanghai, they will expand across the country. This is an experiment, and the next steps are still not clear. But what is clear is that, again, the financial sector is stabilizing, and the government is giving more and more leeway to Chinese firms, constantly to work in a freer market abroad. This means that a lot of opportunities opening up for people in the finance sector. The VCP sector is one of the largest in the world, with over 8,000 companies working in the area. So we're talking about a lot of money and a lot of opportunities. Next, please. Okay, food safety and environment. Food safety is a major issue in China, land and water scarcity. All this development has meant a lot of pollution and a lot of demand on resources. And then this means that also there's a lot of opportunities. So whether it's technologies or importing foods from abroad, obviously in service sector like chain restaurants, supermarkets are all expanding now across Western China. And technologies of all kinds, such as air pollution filters, for example, and so on, are also expanding. Yes, please move on. IT and telecom. So this last year, over 1.2 billion mobile phone users in China. That means almost every man, woman, and child had a mobile phone. And obviously, we're using them all the time. Chinese telecom giant Huawei has growing influence abroad and in most countries and has operations around the world. Mobile companies in China are growing and expanding internationally. There's opportunities for international business development. These firms who are going abroad or merging with Western firms. Obviously, a huge market for mobile phone and software applications and from abroad. And the growing local IT sector is significant also, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Let's move on. So this was what China innovation was considered before. If you move to the next slide, we are starting to recognize Chinese companies around the world like Baidu and Tencent that are the equivalents of Google, equivalents of Facebook, and so on. And they're also starting to expand abroad as well with a lot of success. Let's move on. Okay, and before we talked, China was known more as a country that created other technologies and other products, but now China is beginning to innovate. So we're seeing these technology companies innovating with new products and actually making better products than their Western counterparts. Tencent, for example, many say it's better than the WhatsApp application. There's a growing presence of technological joint ventures between Western companies and China. And this is also where Russia can play a growing role. And there's more than 150 high-tech and new tech development zones across the country. Please move on. Biomed and pharma is also a growing sector with aging population in China. Western medical or healthcare companies, such as Bayer, such as Merck, Johnson & Johnson, and so on and so forth, all have booming business here in China. And also, of course, we're seeing the emergence of local firms that are also slowly expanding both within the country as well as abroad, pharmaceuticals and medical devices. Please move on. And China, of course, is lucrative because of the huge consumer market. We're talking about close to 1.4 billion consumers, a growing consumption rate of young generation, It's a sector which is still immature, and there's plenty of opportunities to grow and new products. A luxury good, we all know China has a luxury consumer market, a huge one, for products like Louis Vuitton and Chanel and so on and so forth. If you've been abroad, you know that the biggest buyers of luxury goods are the Chinese in cities like London and across Europe and the United States. Food sector, so things like fine wines, caviar, for example, from Russia. These are all becoming obviously under big demand in Russia. And we'll talk a little bit more about the internet business here, which is booming. Online business in China is just growing and double-digit every year. And most Chinese, and especially young Chinese consumers, are now buying everything online rather than in bricks-and-mortar stores. So we see huge emergence of what we call, for example, Taobao, which is the equivalent of the U.S. company eBay, or Tmall, which is similar to also eBay or Amazon. So this net is giving huge possibilities also for C2C, consumer to consumer, people selling products e-commerce sites. There's huge opportunities as well. Please move on. Entrepreneur opportunities. Obviously, there are many international professionals coming to China and opening their own business successfully. They can do that today without a joint venture. And at CEIBS, we promote that. We'll talk about that later. We have, including two in-house funds with more than $100 million US dollar equivalent to invest in ventures of our alumni students. Let's please move on. Okay, so that's the first. We talk a little bit about the CEIBS programs. Does anyone have any questions meanwhile? Feel free to ask them now. I'll be glad to answer them before we move on to the next presentation about the school and the program. Any questions? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the MBA. Please move to the next slide. Okay, so at CEIBS, we're the China Europe International Business School. This year we're celebrating 20 years since our inception. We're the most veteran and leading business school in China. Please move on. We have every year, we're globally recognized and accredited, of course, as a global business school, ranked number 17. Move on, please, to the next slide, by Financial Times, and number 1 by Forbes and Bloomberg Business Week in China. So we've been in the top 25 for the last 10 consecutive years. Let's talk a little bit about the MBA. Move on, please. And the student profile this year. Move on, we have around 200 students here, divided into 3 different sections. This year they represent 21 countries. Of course, we've had students coming from Russia and other countries in the region, and 35% of our students are from overseas. They're Chinese. Most of the Chinese, you have a global background. Okay, so you move on to the next slide. Average age is 29, but anywhere from age 23 to 35, with around 5.5 years of work experience. The minimum work experience we require is 2 years. Please move on. Our faculty is extremely diverse. 2/3 are international. They come from all over the world and all have a global perspective, yet all of them know China business. 1/3 come from North America and the rest of the world, while 1/3 are European and 1/3 are Chinese, many of them who have studied and also have experience abroad as well. Please move on. The faculty as well as the student body are equivalent to any program you'll see in Europe or in the United States. Our program is a combination of academic as well as experiential learning. So you teach the fundamentals in business, understand the critical management skills, international exposure, and integrated application. Please move on. We talk about China depth, global breadth. That means curriculum is very much focused on China. It also gives you global perspectives, cases in the classroom, both from international business schools such as Harvard or those developed locally talking about China-specific cases. We need to work in mixed teams with nationalities. We have our exchange program, and we'll talk about that in our leadership workshop. There are literally dozens of activities in class and outside of class. Talk about those as well. Make these comprehensive for development both of your hard skills as well as your soft skills in the classroom and outside of the classroom. We just mentioned our exchange journey, so if you move to the next slide, we work with all the top-tier business schools such as INSEAD, Portland London Business School, Michigan. There are over 120 positions slots open every year. So those students that want to study abroad have the opportunity to go to the best business schools in the world through our program. Let's move on. On the classroom are the many activities that we have outside of the classroom. Let's go on to the next slide, including both cultural events, social events, international case competitions. The one we hold every year at our campus called Innovate China, for example. And this is a competition for teams coming from different business schools across the world to help Chinese companies expand and globalize abroad, both their services or their products. We have alumni events also every year, both in our local Chinese chapters as well as chapters around the world, and many other events, the forums and so on. For example, last week we had a TEDx on campus. This was quite an event talking about different trends and so on and so forth from people from around the world. Yes, please go on to the next slide. And we have strategy project, 39 active clubs. The most popular club is the entrepreneurship club. They include marketing, luxury goods, and also social clubs like sports and so on. International case competitions. Our mentoring program, for example, something very popular where we match you with our MBA alumni, and they kind of mentor you and coach you on your career objectives as well. Please move on. And for entrepreneurs, we offer many different schools. Help you actually. We're one of the schools I would say that offers the most schools for entrepreneurs from all the business schools. If you move to the next slide, we offer this year a concentration, so more than 8 classes in entrepreneurship, 4 entrepreneurship courses. I mentioned we had a huge fund to invest in our student initiatives as well, the angel forums and other workshops and so forth to help entrepreneurs with their ventures, both after graduation or several years after graduation. Please move on. And one person listening asked what type of work is usually available after you finish CEIBS. So we provide very strong career services support. We have an office of 9 people, 7 different counselors helping students in different sectors. The sectors that we just mentioned, whether it's banking, consulting, or energy, or healthcare, or IT, telecom, finance, and so forth. We have people dedicated to helping you. And for international students, around, I would say, half of our international students stay in China every year, while half go back to their country of origin or to their country. And people, if you can move to the next slide, in China and abroad, although our strength is within mainland China. Average salary is around equivalent of, I would say, around 70 to 80 US dollars, more even for international students. We have more than 1,000 job postings a year. And if you look at the Financial Times ranking, we rank between number 2 and 3 in the world the last few years. Salary wage increase, the average salary wage increase, just to double every year for most of our candidates. So there's still a lot of salaries in China and opportunities both from companies recruiting multinationals as well as local companies recruiting international students and abroad. Now, many times there is a necessity for the Mandarin language, be a limitation. Those students that have the resolve to stay in China can find also opportunities without having fluent Mandarin as well. So the next slide, please. And we offer a variety of different tools such as networking events, seminars and workshops, our annual job fair, internships, mock interviews, as well as personal one-on-one coaching. And we make every attempt to help you. It's not guaranteed. Over 90% of our students find a job within after graduation. This year is looking to be over 92% of the time we finish placement for the class that has just graduated. And one of the strongest parts, we believe, is our alumni network. So we have over to now 15,000 students. These are MBA as well as MBA alumni, which are all over the world, and also the most prestigious network in China by far. It means for Russians that want a foot in the door into the Chinese market, have the strongest network and the best access to get into whether it's state-owned industries, whether it's the Chinese industries, as well as multinational companies. All our graduate alumni are in top positions all around the country. And this is what people find as one of the greatest assets that accompanies them after graduation, of course, into many years on. So they are your future partners, investors, employers, customers, and so on. So the network is something that CEIBS is very much renowned for. Please move on. Some of the numbers: we have alumni clubs all over the world and chapters worldwide. We still don't have one in Russia, unfortunately, but we do have Russian students who graduated, of course, from our program. And some one. We provide also strong financial support. So we're just done with our trial. Here, we've offered more than 80 scholarships to students out of the 200 places. So we have a lot of financial support opportunities. They're all based on merit. Please go on. Okay. Next slide. More than 40% of our candidates did receive a scholarship this year. I don't know if you're familiar with hockey, and although I'm sure you are in Russia, the famous athlete from Canada, Wayne Gretzky, was said to his success, what was the secret of his success? He said, "I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it has been." And that means when you're thinking about a global business education, I would tell you, don't necessarily look to where schools have been or where business has been in the past, but where it's going to. If you want to build the right knowledge and right network in the area where business is expanding. And obviously business has moved and is moving into Asia. This is where a lot of the commerce is happening today. And I think those young Russian professionals and those coming from Central Asia and have this knowledge of China and Asia, which are very complex societies, which are also sometimes very different and not very much familiar to a lot of other, I would say, countries coming in from the West. Being here and understanding the culture and making the contacts and making the friends give you a competitive edge over others who have had the traditional education in Europe or North America. So I very much would encourage you to think of Asia as an option. And if you think of Asia, then of course think of CEIBS, which is one of the leading business schools in Asia and in the world, as a logical choice. So now we'll take any other questions from you. One of the questions is, how do you think the level of students who have finished your school is higher than top schools from the US and the UK? In terms of what you mean by level of students, I'm not exactly sure, but I can tell you that as a top tier school within the top 20 in the country, both the students as well as the faculty are top tier, which essentially means are clearly as competitive. If you look at our GMAT scores, for example, our average is around 693 this year, or around between 690 to 700 on average every year. And the professors that we have, of course, are coming from leading top tier schools. They come from Ivy League schools, from London Business School, IMD, and so on and so forth. It's going to be very much in a global ambiance with competitive individuals on the same level as top tier schools, both in the US and Europe. Both our salary rates show that. In terms of knowledge, of course, many of them that come from China will have a global perspective, so they'll have worked for multinational companies or had some of their education abroad. Perhaps or just have more local knowledge. That's fine. So we try to have a diverse class, so with more than 20 to 30 countries every year represented, and we try to increase our diversity all the time. So it's definitely a very diverse class, also coming from many sectors. So if you go to European and American schools, where most come from finance or consulting or want to go into finance and consulting, at CEIBS we're probably one of the most diverse in terms of coming from backgrounds such as healthcare, industries such as IT, telecom, manufacturing, aerospace, and so on, as I mentioned before. So this enriches the class of discussion quite more significantly than perhaps schools that are more finance and consulting focused. Differences in the future. If you are a woman or if you are a man, salary, success, and searching a job. Obviously, I think China is probably one of the most countries in the world in terms of opportunities for women, both in salary as well as in sectors and positions. And I think we have also one of the largest female rates in business schools all over the world. More than 40% of our students are ladies. So there's no great difference between women, especially in a country like China, and also for the opportunities where we reach. So I highly encourage both women to apply, of course. Okay, any other questions at the moment? Okay. I again apologize for starting late. We did finish on time. And if you did remain with us, I very much appreciate it. My name is Roy. Let me just mention one more thing. This year we are offering the summer boot camp. It's for 710 euros, so the equivalent of. You can come to Shanghai and CEIBS from July 9th to July 13th. 5 full intensive days. You can stay longer if you want. And you stay on campus and you have a non-stop intensive both in our business courses with different teachers, as well as different activities, company visits. It's very intensive. It's a lot of fun, and we subsidize it to come to China and to come to Shanghai to get a feel for what the program is all about. If you need some more information, of course, please send me an email, and I'll be glad to send it to you. And of course, send you our full-time MBA brochure or answer any of your questions. I really think that China has a lot of opportunities people haven't thought about. Again, especially for people from Russia and Central Asia, a lot of investment between the two countries and a lot of opportunities to want to make the bridge between the two countries. I very much encourage you to start looking east option for your MBA and consider an MBA at CEIBS. If there's no other questions, I thank you very much for joining us this evening, and again, thank you for the delay, and I look forward for hearing from you, and thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much and have a good day. Thanks now.